A billionaire, discovered in bed with his mistress, returns to his pregnant wife, clutching divorce papers. It started with a shocking disclosure that took the elite by complete surprise. Prominent real estate mogul Cashin Vaughn was found entwined in the linens with his lover at an upscale Manhattan hotel, just hours before he was expected back to his expectant wife. That pivotal instant fractured the flawless facade of the Vaughn's union and sent waves through every high society enclave, from Tribeca lofts to Hampton's seaside mansions. To the casual observer, Cashin seemed to possess it all. Affluence, influence, and a life of luxury marked by elite gatherings, personal aircraft, and shining features in prestigious publications. Beside him stood Delilah Vaughn, a composed and devoted partner who had been raised in a quiet upstate town, never imagining she would find herself in such a lavish realm. As the first light of that fateful morning broke over Manhattan's skyline, Delilah held divorce papers in one trembling hand, her other arm cradling her 5-month pregnant belly with a protective embrace. She sat in their opulent penthouse, heart racing, as the clock's ticking resonated like a countdown to the demise of her once enchanting marriage. Delilah had held a deep conviction that Cashin was her destined partner. Their existence appeared to be a captivating love story. Strolling for hours by the Hudson, escaping for weekends on his yacht, celebrating achievements over drinks, and envisioning the promising future they intended to embrace together. Yet, the initial signs of Cashin's yearning for both aspiration and allure were evident all around. He possessed an undeniable charm, effortlessly attracting affluent investors and a steady flow of admirers. Delilah yearned to believe in his every vow of loyalty, but the whispers became too deafening to dismiss. From muted conversations at elegant soirees to enigmatic late-night calls, he dismissed as mere business. Doubt crept into their home like a stealthy mist. Even as Delilah chose to overlook the scent lingering on his suits, a nagging feeling in her gut whispered that something was deeply amiss. That morning, however, was a profound wave of uncertainty. It was evidence. Cashin had transgressed a boundary that could never be undone. Regardless of the countless attempts he made to persuade or enchant Delilah into trusting their promises, this act of treachery was the ultimate devastation. Her heart raced as the elevator chimed. He was ascending, blissfully ignorant of the monumental change that had taken place. She braced herself, new tears stinging at the edges of her eyes. She refused to allow her child to be raised in a fog of falsehoods. Cashin entered the penthouse at dawn, his once pristine suit now disheveled, the lingering aroma of an unfamiliar floral perfume hanging in the air. He paused as he caught sight of Delilah poised by the grand floor-to-ceiling windows, which framed the dazzling skyline of Manhattan. Her face appeared gaunt, with shadows under her eyes betraying a night devoid of rest. On the coffee table, beside a bouquet of immaculate white roses, rested a manila envelope, its foreboding legal stationery subtly visible. He gulped, a surge of remorse washing over him. For years, he had balanced the fine line between relentless ambition and careless excess. In reality, it had consistently been a delicate equilibrium. But witnessing the tears glistening on Delilah's cheeks and her hand gently cradling her rounded belly, he understood that the consequences of his selfish fantasies were about to demand a steep toll. Delilah's heart raced as she remembered the moment they first crossed paths. She attended a prestigious university on a scholarship, dedicating her time to a fundraising gala as a volunteer. He was the charming prodigy, the esteemed guest of honor, reveling in his significant breakthrough, a prominent real estate venture that would elevate him into the city's elite. They had succumbed to the allure of one another's possibilities, captivated by the radiant hope of a future forged through ambition and commitment. Yet as time passed, Cashin's desire for power and validation from other admirers eclipsed the authentic love she believed they had. She clung to each cherished moment from their beginnings, turning a blind eye to the numerous tardy arrivals, questionable text messages, and the rampant rumors circulating among his professional acquaintances. As the first light of dawn bathed the penthouse, the city that never sleeps stood as a silent observer to their intimate turmoil. With trembling fingers, she extended the divorce papers. "We're done," she said, her voice barely escaping as the tightness in her throat constricted her words. His recognizable features, those piercing gray eyes and the angle of his shoulders, appeared alien in this stark moment. She prepared herself for his rejection, or maybe even fury, but what he offered was merely a strangled apology. "Delilah," he implored, "let us have a conversation." "I never intended," she interrupted him. His intention had never been clearer. Deceit had transformed from an uneasy doubt into a confirmed reality. And Delilah, for the sake of her unborn child, would no longer participate in the deception. Tensions crackled in the air, filling the penthouse with an electric charge. Cashin's previously steadfast demeanor wavered as he beheld the resolve shining in his wife's tear-filled gaze. Delilah experienced time elongating, each second unfolding like an endless moment. For what felt like an eternity, she wrestled with her doubts, questioning the validity of her suspicions. Now the reality unfolded before her like a harsh truth she couldn't ignore. Finally gathering a spark of anger instead of sorrow, she flung the manila folder onto the coffee table, where it landed with a muted thud. "You made your choice," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Do not deceive me by acting as if it's not true." Her words pierced him, each one a sharp strike, leaving him bewildered and unsure of how to reply. For the first time, the man who had always excelled at charming every investor, every socialite, every competitor, stood utterly at a loss for words. As he looked at her swollen abdomen, his guilt deepened. The infant symbolized their destiny, a destiny he had previously professed to hold dear. Delilah stifled a sob that threatened to escape her throat, battling it with all her might. She was now with child. She refused to break down, particularly not in the presence of someone who had shattered her trust at every turn. She recalled evenings filled with the ticking of the clock beyond midnight, gazing at the city lights dancing through the blinds, yearning for his arrival with a plausible story. She remembered hoping it was merely the essence of high-stakes real estate, the price of achievement and networking, yet the messages, the whispers, and now the incriminating revelation in that luxurious hotel suite painted a contrasting picture. Cashin's expression wavered with a sense of urgency. "I promise it was an error. I was out toasting a successful agreement." One event unfolded into the next. She closed her eyes. She was done with the excuses and the insincere pleas. This was the essence of heartbreak, a profound understanding that no words could alleviate the anguish or revive the tender connection they once cherished. She pivoted in the direction of the corridor that led to the master bedroom. "Take a moment to observe, Cashin," she murmured, "for after today, the life we've known will come to an end. I will not be present when you come back from your next meeting. If you've reached this point, please inform me. Share your thoughts. Type 1 if you think Delilah should leave right away, or 2 if you believe Cashin deserves another opportunity." As Delilah withdrew, the stillness of the penthouse enveloped Cashin, casting him into a chasm of remorse. The sharp recollection of his misstep echoed in his thoughts. The soft shimmer of champagne flutes in an upscale lounge, teasing murmurs, the brief rush of exhilaration he confused for thrill. He had convinced himself it was merely a harmless indulgence, something he could neatly separate and control. Yet, as he faced the empty resonance of his footsteps on the marble floor, the depth of his naivety struck him with undeniable clarity. The price of that supposed excitement was the very bedrock of his union. In the master bedroom, Delilah gazed at the reflection in the mirror above her dresser, a woman who seemed like a stranger. She donned a graceful nightgown designed to complement her expectant shape, yet her eyes betrayed a deep-seated pain. With great care, she glided her hands across her belly, attempting to calm the tumult of fear that surged inside her. How would she maneuver through the challenges of single parenthood in the city? What will happen with finances, custody, and the inevitable tabloid gossip that is bound to arise? She searched for her phone, desperate for a connection, and called her dearest friend, Rosalind Yao. Rosalind had been Delilah's trusted companion since their university years. Though she opted for a more subdued journey in education, she was well acquainted with the intricacies of Delilah's tumultuous existence alongside a powerful billionaire. "Oh my goodness, Delilah," Rosalind let out a soft sigh upon detecting the tremor in her friend's voice. I'm on my way. Exercise caution and think things through carefully. Simply inhale and exhale. Delilah nodded, tears streaming down her face, filled with silent gratitude for the steadfast support surrounding her. She pondered whether Cashin possessed any genuine allies, those brave enough to share the hard truths with him. He had consistently kept company with those who would agree with him and shower him with praise. As she stepped out of the bedroom, Cashin stood before the expansive windows, framed by the soft glow of the early morning light. He pivoted to confront her, despair carved into his expression. I'll be staying in a hotel tonight, he murmured softly. Allow you some room. However, I kindly ask you, Delilah, to let us converse tomorrow. I am indebted to you for that. At the very least, an authentic dialogue. She observed him closely, unsure whether this was a true gesture of peace or just another instance of the charming words she had learned to expect. At last, she gave a weary nod. Tomorrow, she conceded gently, even as her heart threatened to break once more. When Rosalind showed up, Cashin had already gathered his overnight bag and departed from the penthouse. The silence that filled the room was both heavy and oddly serene, reminiscent of the calm that follows a fierce tempest. Delilah settled into the soft white sofa, her eyes wandering to the graceful crystal chandelier sparkling above her. She cherished every exquisite detail of this home, from the contemporary art adorning the walls to the breathtaking panorama of the skyline. Yet now each shining surface taunted her, mirroring the emptiness she experienced within. With a deliberate motion, Rosalind took off her raincoat and nestled next to Delilah. Talk to me, she said softly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Delilah swallowed hard, reliving each painful instant. The whirlwind of whispers, the ultimate, undeniable proof that Cashin had been unfaithful, and her choice to initiate the divorce proceedings. With tears streaming down her face, she confessed, I never imagined it would reach this point, but I must safeguard my child. I cannot nurture them in a home constructed on deception. Rosalind's expression was unwavering. I'm in agreement. Cashin's betrayal is a significant matter. He not only betrayed your trust, but did so with full awareness of your current vulnerability. The words served as a chilling reminder. Delilah rested her hand on her belly, sensing a delicate flutter within. She focused on calming her breath. In just a few days, her whole reality had been completely transformed. The vision she had crafted, children, celebrations, holidays shared as one cohesive family, seemed like a harsh illusion. Rosalind gently pressed her hand on Delilah's shoulder. You possess great strength, and you are not by yourself. If you'd like, you can stay with me. Delilah managed a weary smile. I may just consider that offer. I must consult with a lawyer initially. I already possess the documents. But is it definitive enough? Am I truly ready to embark on this journey? The question had lingered in her heart, a persistent ache since the moment she uncovered the truth. A fragment of her longed for the possibility of redemption. There is potential for Cashin to transform. A counselor might be able to restore what was left of their connection. Yet the other side understood that betrayal, once revealed, seldom mends without scars. All I know is, she said with a heavy heart, something has to come to a close here, because I refuse to endure this suffering any longer. That evening, Delilah fulfilled her promise to reach out to a highly regarded attorney. Through a connection of a connection, she discovered Carmen Delgado, a powerful legal intellect celebrated for her thorough methods and passionate defense of wronged partners. Delilah pressed the digits with unsteady hands, her anxiety palpable. The phone rang twice before a clear, polished voice welcomed her. Ms. Vaughn, it's a privilege to connect with you, Carmen began, her tone indicating she had been looking forward to this conversation. I have gone over the initial details you provided. It is essential to evaluate prompt actions to ensure the safety of both you and your unborn child. Carmen's efficiency and calm guidance provided Delilah with an unusual sense of reassurance. Here was an individual prepared to support her, protect her from Cashin's possible legal tactics, and steer through a complex web of financial issues. A meeting was scheduled for the following day. After Delilah ended the call, she fixed her gaze on her phone for what felt like an eternity, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Initiating legal proceedings brought a profound sense of reality to the situation. This was more than a mere disagreement. It was a revelation that stripped away the facade of their entire relationship. She surveyed the penthouse, recalling how Cashin had urged them to purchase this space, envisioning her waking up each day with a sense of regal splendor. Now the space seemed to transform from a grand palace into a shimmering prison. Just then, her phone vibrated. Cashin. With hesitation, she replied, preparing herself for justifications or pleas. His voice trembled with fatigue. Delilah, I find myself at the Lucerne Hotel. Rest eludes me. I want you to understand just how deeply I regret this. His tone, filled with genuine emotion, sent a shiver through her. A meeting with a lawyer, she declared, bracing herself. This cannot continue. The stillness lingered on the line, stretched tight with anticipation. Indeed, he finally whispered, I get it, but I really hope you won't exclude me from the baby's life. That is our offspring. Delilah closed her eyes, tears threatening to spill. I won't, she said with determination. However, this union might be irreparable. His anguish seemed to pulse through the phone, almost tangible in its intensity. Yet, for a change, his allure fell short. What lingered was nothing but the unvarnished reality. He had made a thoughtless, irreversible choice, and Delilah's heart was unable to withstand the burden of his regret. Experiencing inner conflict? Share your thoughts by commenting 3 if you think Delilah should move forward with the divorce, or 4 if you believe there's still hope for reconciliation. At the break of dawn, Delilah entered Carmen Delgado's immaculate office, a sophisticated suite perched on the 20th floor with a view of Central Park's verdant canopy. Even with the serene exterior, a subdued array of colors, and elegantly displayed legal diplomas, Delilah's heart was heavy. This was the arena where individual struggles evolved into structured tactics, where sorrow morphed into formal assertions. Carmen gestured for her to take a seat, then quietly shut the door to create an intimate atmosphere. The attorney declared her readiness to manage it all, her gaze unwavering. Infidelity serves as a powerful tool, particularly when a child is expected. Delilah nodded slowly, recognizing that her feelings were secondary to concrete facts, dates, evidence, and assets. She detailed with a detached precision the unsettling nights, the persistent scent, and ultimately the irrefutable morning when Cashin failed to return home. Carmen inquired incisively about prenuptial agreements, financial assets, and possible collaborative ventures. By the time they finished, Delilah felt utterly exhausted in her mind. The intricate legal language blended with the profound sorrow within her, rendering her emotionally detached. Yet Carmen's assurance provided a beacon of hope. We'll serve him papers, she stated, but if he is amenable, we can steer clear of a contentious courtroom clash. Prioritize your well-being and the journey of your pregnancy. I'll take care of everything from here. Delilah tightened her grip, thankful for a person who recognized the seriousness of the moment and possessed the knowledge to lead her forward. Meanwhile, across town, Cashin sat in a dimly lit bar in mid-morning, an unusual choice for a man who typically sealed million-dollar deals before lunch. Yet the weight of swirling guilt bore down on him like an avalanche. With a cup of coffee steeped in remorse, he perused his phone. 6 missed calls from partners, worried messages from associates. He stood at the edge of losing all that held genuine significance. He remembered the anguish etched on Delilah's face, the tender way she cradled her belly, as if guarding their child from the hurt he had caused. He buried his face in his palms. An hour later, he gathered his resolve to reach out to Soren Chambers, a family law expert he was acquainted with through professional connections. If Delilah was preparing her legal strategy, as the whispers suggested, he couldn't allow himself to be taken by surprise. Soren listened with a composed demeanor, jotting down notes as he agreed to take on Cashin's case. However, he cautioned that in instances of infidelity, judges often favored the wronged partner, particularly when a pregnancy was a factor. Cashin massaged his temples, a sense of urgency constricting his chest. Was there any hope for him to reclaim a fragment of his existence, or was his demise destined to unfold? 3 days later, Cashin officially received the divorce papers at his newly rented corporate apartment, a stark contrast to the warm opulence of the penthouse he once called home. He gazed at the legal documents, every sentence a chilling reminder of the depths to which he had shattered Delilah's trust. The list clearly detailed her demands: primary custody upon the baby's arrival, significant spousal support, and a fair division of assets. It was more than just a monetary setback. It was a definitive declaration that she wished for him to be removed from her life as a husband, for good. He caught himself going over the same sentences again, yearning for a hint that perhaps he could persuade her otherwise. Memories surged within him, Delilah beaming in her graduation gown, the moment he knelt at a charming bistro in Paris, their intimate wedding ceremony where even the most stoic business tycoons wiped away tears. How had he allowed everything to fade into the distance? With a heavy heart, he signed the receipt confirming he'd received the service, then picked up the phone to call Soren. The attorney stated plainly that we could challenge some of this, but my recommendation is to go along with it. Demonstrate to the courts that your intentions are not to undermine her or the child. Throughout the city, Delilah was carefully arranging her belongings into a suitcase. She resolved to accept Rosalind's invitation and temporarily reside in her friend's snug apartment. The penthouse now carried an air of haunting, echoing with the weight of shattered promises. Every footfall resonated in the vast chambers, as if taunting the void of her existence alongside Cashin. She lingered at a picture frame on the mantel, their wedding photo capturing a moment in time. They appeared utterly smitten. For a fleeting instant, she thought about abandoning it, yet in a surge of emotion, she tenderly tucked it into her suitcase. It was an integral chapter of her past, no matter how excruciating. She would confront that memory when she was ready. Later that evening, Carmen reached out with some news. Cashin recognized the documents but appeared reluctant to engage in battle. Delilah sensed a slight easing in her heart. At least he wasn't intending to transform this into a lengthy conflict. She could only wish it signified he grasped the gravity of his actions. Yet the lingering question was whether he genuinely wished to co-parent or was merely trying to repair his public image. For Delilah, the difference was essential. She promised to shield her child from insincere gestures and half-hearted apologies. 3 weeks passed in a blur of legalities, medical appointments, and solitary evenings on Rosalind's couch. As Delilah's pregnancy unfolded, her belly swelled softly, cradling the precious life she held dearer than anything. With every kick from the baby, she experienced a unique mix of wonder and melancholy. She longed to reveal this marvel to someone who genuinely valued it, but trust in Cashin eluded her. Not at this moment. Perhaps not at all. When she finally shared the news of the impending divorce with her mother, Grace Mitchell, the heartbreak was palpable even through the phone. Her mother's voice quivered with emotion as she proposed to drive directly to Manhattan to lend a hand. "Mom, I truly appreciate it, but I'll be fine," Delilah insisted, a wave of gratitude washing over her for the unwavering love that had been her foundation since childhood. "I simply require a bit of time to sort through everything." Yet, the sound of Grace's desperate pleas lingered in her thoughts. She longed for the uncomplicated times of her hometown, where neighbors brought pies and shared warm smiles in a spirit of community. Yet she was acutely aware that her autonomy, along with her child's future, hinged on carving out a new journey in the city she had once cherished. In stark contrast, Cashin immersed himself in a determined effort to demonstrate that he had transformed. He reduced the number of business meetings, severed connections with those who had supported his extravagant lifestyle, and even began attending therapy independently. He persistently contacted Soren, inquiring about any legal options for reconciliation. Yet Soren kindly pointed out that reconciliation is a matter of the heart. The law cannot compel Delilah to place her trust in you once more. On a brisk morning, Cashin gathered his resolve to message Delilah regarding her upcoming prenatal appointment. She paused, remembering the solitude that had seeped into these visits. During her initial checkups, he was right there beside her, eagerly inquiring about every detail from the doctor. Then arrived the overlooked meetings, the abandoned meals, the growing doubt. After a brief internal struggle lasting 10 minutes, she responded succinctly, "It's next Tuesday at 2 p.m. When you arrive, you arrive." The days leading up to that appointment were filled with a palpable sense of unease. Delilah felt her heart race with every buzz of her phone. She despised that Cashin continued to linger in her thoughts and feelings. The soft nudges from the baby served as a poignant reminder of the stakes involved, compelling her to maintain her composure and strength for the precious life relying on her. Has your perspective changed? Share your thoughts with a 5 if you believe Cashin has the potential for transformation, or a 6 if you feel Delilah should remain cautious. The day of the prenatal appointment dawned with an unforeseen chill in the autumn air. Delilah donned a tailored maternity coat, her movements careful on the slick city sidewalks. At the clinic, her nerves were on edge. She somewhat anticipated that Cashin might not appear. As she approached the reception desk, her gaze fell upon him at the far end of the waiting area. His posture was restrained, hands joined together as if in supplication. He gave a hesitant smile. "I appreciate you allowing me to be here," he murmured, approaching her with a gentle stride. The air crackled with unspoken words, yet she acquiesced, her lips sealed in silence. Shortly after, Dr. Iris Carter welcomed them with a friendly yet professional demeanor. "It's wonderful to have both parents present," she remarked, ushering them into the examination room. The remarks pierced through, serving as a reminder to Delilah that although they remained co-parents, the unity of their relationship had faded away. Carter conducted the ultrasound as a medical professional. The gentle whoosh of their baby's heartbeat resonated throughout the intimate room. Delilah sensed a tear escape, tracing a path down her cheek without her consent. Cashin clutched the edge of his chair, his eyes glimmering with an emotion that could have been remorse or regret, maybe even a blend of both. In a fleeting instant, they glimpsed a fragment of the hope that had once burned brightly within them, a moment that underscored the deeper stakes that lay beyond their bruised egos. As the appointment came to an end, they emerged into the hallway. Cashin parted his lips, poised to utter something significant, yet silence enveloped him. Delilah's eyes danced across his face, and she let out a soft sigh. "Listen, I value your presence." She started to brace herself, but this doesn't alter the situation. Mediation is still on the agenda for next week. All the details are with my lawyer. His lips pressed together. "I comprehend. I simply want to support the baby, no matter the cost." With her arms crossed over her chest, she pressed the elevator button. "Then go ahead," she said softly. "Proceed without anticipating that I will offer you another opportunity as a partner." The elevator doors glided apart, revealing the interior as Delilah entered with a sense of purpose. Cashin hesitated, as though unwilling to accept the inevitability of her leaving. The final image she held of him was his gaunt visage in the hallway, a soul ensnared by his own shortcomings and a fervent longing to seek redemption. A week later, the day of the mediation session dawned beneath a somber gray sky, heavy with the promise of rain. Delilah and Carmen made their way to a sleek midtown office suite, featuring glass walls and a minimalist aesthetic. Cashin and Soren sat poised in a conference room, divided by a polished wooden table that shimmered beneath the soft glow of recessed lighting. Nadia Morales, a composed and straightforward expert with years of experience, outlined the procedure. They would seek to resolve issues without resorting to a lengthy trial, concentrating on financial assistance, custody arrangements, and schedules for dividing assets. Delilah's heart raced within her chest as Carmen articulated their position. They sought assurance for Delilah throughout her pregnancy and following the birth, with Cashin offering monthly assistance that mirrored his considerable earnings. They also asked that Delilah keep the penthouse for a minimum of a year, providing ample time to create a stable environment for the newborn. Additionally, Delilah pursued active participation in every decision concerning the child's upbringing, yet she was reluctant to offer Cashin equal custody from the outset. Soren responded thoughtfully, proposing that Cashin might offer a substantial sum, yet hesitating at the notion of perpetual support. Soren stated that he is open to cooperation, Yet he asserts his right to have regular access to his child and to be involved in significant decisions. Cashin observed Delilah closely, as though he were looking for any hint of a desire to make amends. Delilah averted her eyes, her stance tense. She stood firm against the pull of yearning gazes, the sting of his treachery still fresh in her mind. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as ideas and counter-ideas were passed back and forth. Nadia deftly steered the dialogue, emphasizing that a prolonged conflict would ultimately harm everyone involved, particularly the child. From time to time, Delilah would steal a glance at Cashin, observing the pronounced shadows beneath his eyes and the tightness in his jaw. She understood he was facing difficulties, yet it didn't diminish the pain he had inflicted. By late afternoon, they had crafted a preliminary agreement that would undergo further refinement in the coming days. Delilah would receive adequate monthly assistance for herself and the child once born. The penthouse arrangement would last for a year, at which point they would determine whether to sell or buy each other out. It was an uncanny experience, partitioning a life they had envisioned sharing for eternity. As the session drew to a close, Delilah realized that this was the journey she had to embark on to safeguard herself and her unborn child. This is quite powerful. Leave a comment with a 7 if you believe the mediation is just, or an 8 if you feel someone is being overly lenient. As the final agreement took shape, Delilah found herself enveloped in a whirlwind of emotions. Relief, sadness, and a surprising glimmer of gratitude. She had feared a brutal courtroom clash, but Carmen and Nadia had refined the negotiations sufficiently to steer clear of that unpleasant path. The official hearing was just a formality to be completed. As the date drew near, Delilah couldn't help but contemplate the winding path that had led her to this moment. She reflected on the innocence she may have displayed, holding onto the belief in a man who had been gradually drifting away for quite some time. Yet she also acknowledged her personal development. Once hesitant to face conflict, she had now boldly called for accountability from one of the city's most influential billionaires. On the morning of the court appearance, Delilah adorned herself in a chic black maternity dress. She faced a whirlwind of photographers gathered outside the courthouse, each camera flash hitting her like a wave of judgment. The soft murmur of whispers reached her ears, filled with speculation about Cashin's mistress, the unborn child, and the substantial financial settlement. It required every bit of determination to withstand the intense scrutiny of public interest. Carmen guided her through the bustling corridor, weaving past crowds of curious spectators and nervous defendants anticipating their own hearings. The silence in the courtroom was palpable. Cashin stood beside Soren, his expression serious in a fitted navy suit. The judge meticulously examined the settlement terms, periodically prompting each party to affirm their consent. Delilah's voice trembled as she replied, "Yes, Your Honor," bringing to a close a chapter of her life she had once believed would last forever. She noticed Cashin wiping his brow, as if the burden of his choices had finally come to rest upon him. As the gavel came down, marking the end of her marriage, Delilah's heart skipped a beat. It was confirmed. She had shed the identity of Mrs. Vaughn, a title that had shaped her existence for so long. In that moment, genuine tears brimmed in her eyes, yet she managed to suppress them. Carmen's comforting hand on her shoulder served as a gentle reminder that this moment marked not merely an ending, but the dawn of a fresh start, one free from the suffocating weight of treachery. Emerging from the courthouse, she inhaled the fresh air, dismissing the relentless clicks of the paparazzi. She seized the reins of her existence, promising herself to never let go of that strength again. In the days that followed, Delilah settled into a cozy, sun-drenched apartment in Brooklyn, moving the last of her belongings with care. Having secured the settlement, she found herself with the financial freedom to completely detach from Cashin's realm if she desired. Despite everything, she was willing to allow him to be part of some key moments like an ultrasound here and there or a parenting class. Her deepest desire was for her child to experience love from both parents. Nonetheless, each interaction was approached with care, constrained by the legal framework they had put in place. There would be no fantasies of love rekindled, no emotional revelations or poignant farewells. Instead, They exchanged messages primarily through written communication or legal representatives, with each dialogue meticulously overseen to prevent the resurgence of past grievances. Rosalind frequently dropped by, filling Delilah's small living room with delicious home-cooked meals and joyful laughter. On a breezy afternoon, while piecing together an IKEA crib, they couldn't help but reflect on the simplicity of days gone by. Do you recall the days when we fretted over final exams and searched for the most affordable rent? Rosalind playfully nudged a wooden plank into position. Delilah offered a sly smile. Life was intricate back then. Little did I realize, that was merely a prelude to the complexities of confronting a billionaire husband's betrayal. A fleeting chuckle passed between them, a glimmer of brightness in an otherwise bleak time. Yet Delilah discovered a strength within herself that she had never realized was there. She faced heartbreak head-on, navigated through a storm of rumors, and safeguarded her child's future. An unimaginable achievement just a year prior. As she surveyed the unpretentious yet delightful surroundings, a sense of tranquility began to envelop her heart. She had moved beyond the need for vaulted ceilings and designer chandeliers to find her sense of security. In the interim, Cashin grappled with an overwhelming feeling of absence. He immersed himself in therapy sessions, confronting his self-destructive craving for attention and the void that persisted beneath his lofty aspirations. Every day, he faced the harsh truth that he had exchanged true affection for momentary excitement. Friends inquired whether he felt remorse about it. Above all, he would respond, yet remorse couldn't mend the fractures of his marriage. Thus, he embarked on the journey of crafting a new identity, one that would embrace the challenges of fatherhood with genuine intent, despite Delilah no longer being present in the manner he had once envisioned. As the months unfolded and Delilah's belly swelled with new beginnings, a delicate balance took shape between her and Cashin. From time to time, he would send messages regarding the child support payments or ask courteously about any expenses related to the baby. She valued his reliability, yet she never permitted his apparently remorseful demeanor to draw her into a state of ease. If he genuinely felt regret, it would become evident over time, reflected in his commitment to responsible co-parenting and sincere respect for the boundaries she established. In the stillness of the night, within the confines of her humble bedroom, Delilah envisioned the moment she would cradle her baby close to her heart. A rush of exhilaration and anxiety coursed through her, aware that one chapter of her existence had closed, yet another was on the verge of unfolding. The joy that sparkled within her soul was invaluable, as it stemmed from her own hard-earned liberation. She was no longer dependent on Cashin's loyalty or financial support. She had forged a new route, albeit a narrow one brimming with uncertainty. The last documents arrived on a crisp afternoon. Carmen sent her a digital version of the certified divorce decree via email. There it stood, evidence that Delilah Vaughn was no longer tethered to Cashin's legal or financial matters, except for what was specified for the child's support. She gazed at the PDF for a prolonged moment, experiencing a peculiar blend of sorrow and solace. As she caressed her belly, a soft kick replied, as if to reassure her, "We're all right. We have one another." Taking a moment to gather her thoughts, she sent the document to her mother, Grace Mitchell, who had been eagerly anticipating some resolution. Grace responded without delay, her message overflowing with affection. "Your achievements fill me with pride. You possess more strength than you understand." The affirmation eased a burden from Delilah's soul. That evening, Delilah stepped out to a charming cafe close to her new apartment, ordering a refreshing mint tea as she nestled by the window. She observed the vibrant tapestry of the city, with individuals rushing to catch subways and cabs, as life persisted in its chaotic rhythm. Before long, she would be nurturing a newborn, creating a completely new daily routine. Yet a soothing feeling of connection enveloped her heart. In the face of it all, the relentless cameras, the swirling gossip, the disdain, she had taken back her existence. Once more, her phone vibrated with a message from Cashin. "I heard the announcement has arrived. I sincerely apologize, from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate the opportunity to contribute to our child's future. I will strive to ensure that neither you nor the baby feels let down again." Delilah absorbed the message in silence, tears welling at the edges of her eyes, though the reason eluded her. It might have been the ultimate acknowledgement of a dream that slipped away, making way for a new one to emerge. She crafted a straightforward reply, one that resonated with sincerity in its conciseness. Be well, Cashin. Let us concentrate on nurturing our roles as parents. As she took a sip of her tea, her eyes wandered to a world brimming with potential. She may choose to nurture her child in a humble abode rather than an extravagant penthouse, yet she would provide them with something far more precious than any inheritance. A life rooted in authenticity and dignity. For Delilah, that was the true happily ever after, free from deception and firmly rooted in her steadfast determination. I appreciate you taking the time to explore this tale of treachery, sorrow, and personal growth. If Delilah's resilience struck a chord with you, please share your location and your reflections on her approach to her seemingly insurmountable challenges. Your involvement is invaluable, and we eagerly anticipate sharing more narratives that delve into the essence of human perseverance.